everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa Alastuey, and on this channel, you will find a variety of inspirational and informational videos. So if that sounds good to you and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. My guest this week is Mark Scotch, who is a kidney voucher donor and founder of the Organ Trail, which raises awareness for the need of kidney donors, especially living kidney donors, and to show people that even with one kidney, you can lead a life full of activities, even if those activities are sustained and vigorous. I will be linking his website down below for your reference. Welcome, Mark.
Hi, Lisa. How you doing?
Doing good. So let's just start off with, would you mind sharing a little bit about your background?
Well, I live in Wisconsin, and my wife and I have been married for, well, 48 years next month.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. We've got 3 grown boys. One lives in Oregon, one lives in Utah, one lives here in Wisconsin yet. And we have 3 grandkids, and that's about it as far as the personal stuff there.
Awesome, awesome. So I mentioned in the bio that you're a kidney voucher donor as opposed to just a kidney donor. Can you explain to the audience the difference?
Yes, it's a little bit, I have to go back a little historically speaking. So when kidney donation first came in, of course, blood had to be a match. And then once they realized that that was there, then of course, the first kidney donors were siblings, like brothers and sisters. So the matches were very, very close. But as time goes on, of course, you want more people involved. So blood was important. And then they came up with, right away at the same time, I think antigens. And antigens are part of your liver. And there's 6 antigens that they go by. And they try to match these antigens. And I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but they look for these matches. And then beyond that, in the last year or two, they even gone below that, beyond that, I should say. So what happens when somebody wants to donate to somebody, they find out that the odds are they're not going to match, or they're not going to match good enough. Sometimes, and the good match and the not so good match sometimes requires, or I think usually requires the recipient to take a lot more anti-rejection drugs, so the body doesn't reject the kidney. So what happened a few years ago by accident in UCLA, a young boy who needed a kidney was going to need a kidney at some point. They knew that it was going to fail. And his grandfather had stepped up and said, look, I want to donate to my grandson. But the grandson didn't need it yet. So the grandfather said, well, look, just take mine and then give it to somebody else that it matches. And then when my grandson needs one, then he can get one because I donated. And I guess from reading the story, the surgeons kind of looked at each other and said, how come we didn't think of this?
Right.
So the National Kidney Registry, the NKR, that I donated through, and there's a lot of history with it, with NKR, they took this voucher idea to the next level. So in my case, I'll just use my case. I'm from Wisconsin. I met a guy in Louisiana, a stranger, that I decided to donate for. And once I realized that I could use this voucher program, I no longer had to go to Louisiana to his hospital where he was registered. I could do everything in Wisconsin, in Madison, only 90 miles from my house. And because Madison is part of the NKR program that honors this voucher system, I donated. They found the best match for my kidney, which was somebody in New York. 5 months later, this guy that I met in Louisiana, he applied he got registered, I should say, at an NKR hospital in Jackson, Mississippi, because it has to be part of the same network. And then I gave him this voucher, and that gave him priority on the National Kidney Registry pool. And think of the pool as a bunch of people that are in this. There's 100 hospitals in this NKR network, and there's a pool of people that need a kidney, and it's a pretty large pool. And then as a donor comes into this pool, they match his kidney up or her kidney up with the people in that registry. So when Hugh got the voucher, he got priority to this pool. And the next person that donated that matched the next person that wanted to donate a kidney that matched his kidney the best. He got the next kidney. So quickly saying the voucher allows somebody to donate separate of time and distance from somebody that they want to donate. And you don't have to worry about matching anything at all. No blood, no antigens.
Amazing. So let me ask, what inspired you to donate to this stranger?
Well, it was something that I wasn't thinking of. Actually, my sister-in-law had donated about 12 years earlier than when I met this Hugh. I met Hugh two years ago, February of 2020. And it was just a random chance. I stopped at a microbrewery. My wife and I were on our way from Wisconsin to Texas to get away for the winter. And we just stopped at a microbrewery in Louisiana. And this guy was sitting next to me at the brewery having a beer, and I started talking with him. Well, he got up to leave, and I kind of gave him a hard time about leaving, and I was kind of teasing him. I said, "Oh, yeah, I'll buy you another beer." He said, "No." He said, I have to go home. And I said, "Oh, okay." So I kind of was, playing with him a little bit. He said, "No, I really do." He said, "I have to go home and go on dialysis." He said, "I go on dialysis every night for 10 hours. He said, kidneys failed. He actually was a jockey when he was younger, and which is, I guess, kind of common at the time. They would take a lot of ibuprofen, and it eventually damaged his kidneys. He basically didn't know the effect of ibuprofen at the time. So the instant he said, "I am looking for a kidney," and he said it in a way kind of shyly. He really wasn't asking. He just said, "Yeah, I'm kind of looking for a kidney." And I instantly remembered that my sister-in-law had donated 12 years earlier, and she was fine. She seemed to live a normal life. I never asked her once about her donation. I never had any questions, no curiosity, nothing. But I knew that she had donated. So in that instant, I said, "Well, heck, I'll just give you one of mine." And that's kind of how it turned out. So for me, it was rather an unemotional decision. It just decided that this guy needed a kidney and I could do it.
Amazing. And how is he doing today? Have you followed up with him?
Oh yeah, we're friends. We talk all the time. He got a kidney from somebody in Southern California. So I'm in Wisconsin. My kidney goes to somebody in New York. He's in Louisiana, and he gets a kidney from Southern California. So you can see the power of this voucher program. It's really amazing. And he got the kidney, and that day he was off dialysis, and he's been 2 years now, and he's doing great.
Amazing, amazing. So let me ask about this voucher program. What happens to this list of names of people who don't redeem a kidney ever? How does that pan out or work?
I'm not sure what you mean that don't redeem it. I mean, anybody that like Hugh, he does need a kidney. So you name somebody that needs.
No, but like you, if you go throughout your whole life and you don't need to redeem a kidney, what happens to those people and those list of names that made that gift?
Well, if I ever need a kidney, you mean there's something like that?
Yes, I understand you go to the top of the list, but I guess there is a lot of people that live on one kidney throughout their lifetime and never have to redeem for another kidney. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, like for me personally, I will never need it. I mean, ever needing a kidney is pretty rare. Mm-hmm. And if I would ever need a kidney, I wouldn't be given priority on the wait list as well because I donated.
Exactly. So I think that's just, so thoughtful, compassionate of you to do that. I mean, you saved another life in a very, profound way. You did it with a stranger. And I commend you for that. I pulled up some stats just for the audience. There are 100,000 plus people who currently need kidneys. 13 people die every day waiting for a kidney. And then 3,000 people are added to that kidney transplant list every month.
Right. And I was going through those stats when I was educating myself on how to become a donor. I had no knowledge of what to do. So I just went to the internet. And as I read through those facts, and I was talking to Hugh's transplant facility in Shreveport at the time, because that's where he was registered. That's where he was going for his dialysis. So they were kind of coaching me. And I said, okay, so what do I need to do to donate? They said, well, you got to come down here and get evaluated. We have to test you. Then you have to come down later and, get the surgery if you match. And so they're piling up these trips to Louisiana. And because I like to ride bicycle, I thought, well, if I'm going to be doing all this, making all these trips, and I do this in my normal life. If we're going somewhere, I try to figure out a route that I can maybe ride bike for part of the day or something like that. So I started to put together this trip down the Mississippi River, riding bicycle on these multiple trips to Louisiana for this donation. And when I read that 13 people die here every day waiting for a kidney transplant, it just shocked me. It's like, I called my wife over and I said, Lynn, did you know this? And she said, no. And I said, well, I didn't either. I said, how many other people don't know this? There's got to be thousands, maybe millions of people that don't even know this fact. And that's what led me to the Oregon Trail. That's when I decided to turn that little ride that I was going to do on my own into an awareness ride to try to do what I'm doing today.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's talk about the Oregon Trail. You gave a good little introduction to it. And I know that you are passionate in teaching and showing people that you can still be very active and healthy with one kidney, as long as everything else is working well. And you can do vigorous activity at that. You have biked thousands of miles on one kidney. Can you share a little bit about the Oregon Trail and some of the journeys you've made?
Yeah, so the first ride, I decided to ride, the very first ride was from my house in a small town in central Wisconsin to Madison, Wisconsin. And that was about 10 days before my surgery. So that was about 150 miles. And we had some local people rode with me and some friends, and my grandkids rode a few blocks and my other two. And that was on two kidneys. So that was my last ride with two kidneys. So I had surgery September 30th of 2020. And then 7 months later, in April of 2021, I started from Madison, where I left off on one kidney, and rode to Hugh's house in Natchitoches, Louisiana. So the purpose of that ride was to ride to Hugh's house and for my house, for Madison. And I was on one kidney, I was down a kidney, he was up a kidney. So we met for the second time after our surgeries. I was 7 months post-surgery and he was 2 months post-surgery. So that was about 1,500 miles. And the whole intent was just to create media to, we use the bike ride as kind of a hook. A guy with one kidney riding a bicycle 1,500 miles, what's that all about? And so by using that hook, we're just trying to share what we've learned and hoping that people, timing's everything. I mean, I don't think I would have, my sister-in-law donated in 12 years. I never asked her one question. I just didn't. I had no curiosity. I don't know if I would have donated. I was working, busy, how that works. But if we can plant enough seeds, if we can get enough information out there, maybe somebody will meet a guy like you, like I did, and something will just click. Or people are in a conversation with somebody else and say, yeah, I know a guy that donated a kidney and he's still riding a bicycle and he's doing fine. Because at the time I didn't know. When we decided that I was going to go ahead with the donation, that's when my wife and I decided we needed to tell our three boys, our three growing boys. And my oldest son, him and I do a lot of things together. We do a lot of mountain biking. Up here in Wisconsin, we've got some winter events, some endurance events where you go out cross-country ski. And now we have fat bikes, the bikes that can ride on snow or sand, and also on foot. And we do this couple events up here, and they're endurance events. They're 160 miles, 135 miles in the middle of the winter, taking 20, 30, 40, 50 hours to complete. And I was doing these, and I thought, am I ever going to be able to do these on one kidney? I just didn't know. And he asked me, he said, well, if you donate a kidney, what's going to happen? What can you do? And I said, I really don't know. I haven't found that out yet. But through some research, I found out that people have gone back to what they're doing, whether they're marathon runners or swimmers or karate or dance or whatever. And so I am added to that list. I went back and did a couple of these events on one kidney that I used to do before. And the rides are part of that. So the first ride was to Louisiana. And remember, I said my kidney went to New York. So I was going to ride from Wisconsin to New York. And it didn't, because of logistics and what was going on, it didn't work out quite that way. I ended up riding from Martha's Vineyard back to Wisconsin. And again, people joined me. It was about 1,600 miles. I think we had close to 80 different media events in that 3 weeks or month. And total, with podcasts and everything else, we probably had close to 120 different media events. And then because Hughes Kidney came from Southern California, I decided to ride from Southern California back to Louisiana. And that's where this podcast comes in, because last spring I started from San Diego and rode to Lubbock, Texas. It's about 1,400 miles. And I wanted to split the ride up because I just didn't want to do it all at one time. It would have taken a couple months the way we do it. I ride about 60, 70, 80 miles a day. I've done many 100-mile day, and I do it on a mountain bike. So it's a little bit tougher than a road bike. And we try to do as much media as possible. So I had to cut back the miles and take some time off in the big cities so we can accommodate, what the real mission is. So I went to Lubbock last spring, and then this coming spring, March 9th, I'll be leaving Lubbock and going to New Orleans, and going to stop at all the major cities and do the same thing, just try to create awareness and help people understand about the need and the fact that you can go back to your normal life. These hospitals that do these surgeries, that evaluate and do surgery on people that want to donate a kidney, that the evaluation is very strenuous. You have to almost be in perfect health. So the idea is, if you're healthy enough to donate a kidney, you're healthy enough to live on one kidney. So they don't take any chances with a marginal donor. So that's one thing to consider.
Amazing. So let me ask you about the logistics of these bike rides you're taking. What kind of support do you have? And so just tell me a little bit about that. Is somebody like driving the car right next to you? Are they meeting you in the next town? What's the support like?
Well, because like I said earlier, we've done these kind of things before. Our middle son is in the Air Force, and he was stationed at the Pentagon for a while. And we were going to go out and see him. The last time we were going to see him in Washington, D.C. And while we're driving, I just told my wife and said, I think I'm going to ride from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C., because I knew there was some rail to trails and some bike paths you can take, and you can actually get on a bike in Pittsburgh and go all the way to Washington, D.C. and not have to go on a road. So I've done that before. So what we do on those kind of things, real similar to the Oregon Trail, I basically just start. I just use Google Maps and put it on the bicycle setting and kind of follow that route. Google Maps kind of picks the bike routes if they make sense for the route. And my wife is there. For the Oregon Trail, we have a car, and she kind of hangs out. She might go to she loves going to state parks and national parks and museums, and she likes looking at architecture in cities, towns. So she'll be around. She might be 20 miles up to the next town looking at some stuff or doing things. So if I do need her, I can just call her and say, hey, I've got a breakdown or whatever I have. And many times we have some people with us. The people that ride with us understand that she's not a support vehicle for them. She's for the ride. And where she really comes in really handy is, she'll go ahead and have some burgers ready for us at a town or something. And we just have fun with it. But if I have a TV station or a newspaper or something like that, and I need to get someplace, she can always pick me up, take me where I need to go, and then take me back to where she picked me up. So I can get to events and stay on a really good schedule. And it's surprising on all these rides so far. I've gone a little over 4,000 miles. We've stayed on schedule every day. I've done some riding in the rain and the wind, and we figured some things out. But we've been able to keep the schedule, which is pretty cool.
Amazing, amazing. So do you have any like funny stories that you'd like to share?
Well, I don't know. Super funny. We've going through the levees. When I rode to Louisiana, I've learned about these levee roads, these levee trails, I guess you call them, roads actually. So they're levees that were all, along the Mississippi River that were built to keep the river from flooding. So, and because I ride a mountain bike, I can be on any kind of surface, on pavement, sand, or it doesn't matter. So I've been up on this. I was up on the levee, and some small town newspaper guy wanted to meet me, and he drove his car up on the levee, and we had to rendezvous. And one time so on these rides we send out media press releases. I have some volunteers that help me. We create a database, and we send out press releases 2 or 3 days before I get to a town, and next day and all that. So that goes on. So we've got people calling us and meeting us, along the trail. One thing that happened on the second ride was pretty funny. Part of what we do is, I started the ride in 2020. Well, going to Louisiana, we were going to stay with people along the road. I reach out to different transplant organizations, if you will. There's a national organization called Donate Life that helps me, and different organizations, and we try to get lodging along the way. We're just a grassroots organization, so we try and keep our costs down. So anybody that is interested in housing us or lodging my wife and I for one night. So we were doing that, and then COVID hit, and we couldn't do that. So we had some friends of ours from high school that got wind of our ride, and they wanted to kind of just hang out with us. They had a Class A motorhome, and they were just going to kind of hang out. And we ended up staying in their motorhome every night almost for that first ride. So that was interesting. And then a couple in Lower Michigan offered to put us up for the night. We'd never met her before. Come to find out, she had actually donated a kidney herself, and she worked as a coordinator at Indiana University. And we stayed with them. Well, a TV station came to her house actually and interviewed me and her at the same time. And the next morning, I think it was Sunday, and I got up early and we had breakfast, and then I took off. And traffic was really light. And I was coming up to a road, and there was a stop sign to my right, a T. And I saw a pickup truck come up to that stop sign, and I make sure they stopped and everything. And this truck stopped, and as I go by, they're kind of looking at me, and I just keep going. And I didn't know which way they were turning, so I was kind of listening for it to come up behind me. And I didn't hear it. And it's like, what's going on? The truck should have left. Pretty soon I hear it coming up behind me really slow. It's like, oh my, what's going to happen, So I'm, trying not to look, but I'm looking, one of those kind of things. You don't want to look, but you're looking. And I look, and sure enough, here the truck comes up beside me, and I'm kind of looking at it thinking, what's going to happen here? And I look over, and there's a person staring at me out of the window. They rolled the window down, and they said, "We saw you on TV last night."
Awesome.
So, yeah, there's a lot of little things that happen, but I've never had any situations that have been dangerous or anything.
Unsafe or anything like that.
Yeah.
So what's your preparation like, your training leading up to? I know you have a trip coming up next year. How do you prepare for all of that?
Well, it's my normal biking routine. When I used to train for these endurance events and mountain bike races, I've done a lot of 100-mile mountain bike races, and they're very grueling, very, very physical, really hard. So I just follow the same routine that I did for those. So what that means is I try to ride my bike 3, 4, 5 times a week. Everything they tell you to do to be healthy, But instead of going out for a half hour to an hour, a good training ride for me is 3 to 4 hours at about a clip where I'm doing about 13 to 14 miles per hour on my mountain bike. And that's like on rail trails or maybe on the shoulder of the road, although I don't like riding in traffic. That's why I mountain bike. So, but a good strenuous mountain bike ride of a few hours is a lot of training. So I haven't had any trouble physically to be able to maintain the rides. Although I think my years of combined riding and stuff has really been beneficial for this. So it was kind of a natural fit.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the upcoming one. Can you tell me how many days is it going to take you? How many miles are you covering? Where are you starting and finishing? And what are the dates of it?
So we're starting on March 9th from Lubbock, Texas. That happens to be World Kidney Day. It's a little bit earlier than I wanted to start because of temperatures. But coming from Wisconsin, I mean, March 9th in Texas, that's not the worst thing.
It'll be mild.
Yeah. So I have a little cold. And we're going to end up, and originally I was going to end up in New Orleans, but one of the organizations that's been with me from the start is called Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. It's called LOPA. And their headquarters is in a town called Covington, Louisiana, which is right across Lake Pontchartrain from New Orleans. So we're actually going to stop at their office. And so we're going to go across the Pontchartrain in some way, shape, or form or around it. So we start March 9th from Lubbock, and it's going to take right at a month. The way it worked out, it's going to be about a month, right at a month. I'm taking extra days off on this ride because every major town like Dallas, we're going to take an extra day. Austin, we're going to take an extra day. San Antonio, Houston, Galveston, and then of course New Orleans. And I travel, I'll be averaging probably 60 miles a day. I'm just going to guess right now. And so I'm right now in the process of reaching out to different hospitals along the route, the transplant department, telling them what I do. And I see if they want to partner with me and promote their program as well. I mean, they're doing this kind of stuff naturally anyway. They're reaching out to the public and trying to get the message out. And so this is just a way that we can do it together. And then there's 3 major organ procurement organizations in Texas. And I've reached out to all 3 of them, and all 3 of them are on board. So they'll help me in the media aspect of it and things like that. We will be asking people that anybody that wants to volunteer to house my wife and I along the route. So your audience is more than welcome to contact me and say, hey, we live in Austin. You can go to my website, and it's called theorgantrail.org, or you can go to markscotch.com, my name, markscotch.com. And right in there is a pull-down menu with my route every day, how many miles, what town we start and finish at. And people can look at it. We also invite people to ride with me. If somebody wants to ride with me, you don't have to be part of the kidney organization. Anybody that wants to ride with me, I'm more than welcome them to ride along. And you have to be pretty much self-sufficient, but if they want to ride with me, they can. And I get a lot of people ride with me. I've had surgeons from transplant departments ride with me. I've had people that are looking for a kidney ride with me on electric bikes. So just random people.
So when you're going through these major metropolitan cities, are you stopping before you get to all the highways and stuff, or are you going on the highways?
I'm doing whatever Google Maps kind of tells me to do.
So you're going into the downtown Dallas.
Oh yeah.
All of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The only time we didn't ride was coming into New York City from Connecticut. We were coming from Martha's Vineyard, and we hit came across on the ferry, and then we hit the coast in Massachusetts and coming down through Connecticut. And I had a friend riding with me that lives just north of New York City, and he rides bike. And of course, he rides he's an Ironman actually. He actually donated a kidney himself as well. So he's an Ironman. He just came back from Hawaii, and he's an Ironman with 1 kidney. So we were riding together, and traffic was getting pretty heavy, pretty thick. And I knew from doing some, pre-scouting and things that there was going to be some roads that are going to be pretty tough. And he decided he wasn't going to ride anymore. It was just getting too risky. I kept going for another few miles, but we decided just to skip that. it was just getting too dangerous. So my wife picked us up again. She was close by, got the bike rack on, threw the bikes on. We went to Times Square. We met a friend of mine in Times Square that had ridden up from Pennsylvania. And this is the guy that I knew well before I donated a kidney. We had done a lot of rides together. We call it bike packing, where you carry your sleeping bag and everything on your bike, and you go out for a few days out in the woods or wherever you want to go. And he rode up by himself on his bike from Pittsburgh area up to Times Square. And then, so from Times Square, we rode out. But so then, we didn't ride for 15 miles. So I'll make that ride up. I'll make those miles up somewhere else. So, and then a really cool example too is on the ride coming from Southern California. I reached out to USC Keck Medical Hospital. They do transplants. And one of the kidney coordinators that works there, that helps people looking to become a donor, that want to donate, he helps them through the process. He got wind of my ride. He's a bike rider. So he wanted to ride with me. So we figured out, he met me in Anaheim, I think it was, or Santa Monica. And we rode to USC Keck. Well, we had to go right through downtown Los Angeles. And he was nervous. He said, I've never ridden through Los Angeles. I've never even wanted to. So, man, we rode through. It was a weekend, I think. So it wasn't quite so bad. But he was like, wow, I've never ridden through Los Angeles, and this is fun. So, yeah, I just use Google Maps, and it's really good. If a local comes up to me and says, hey, this route's better, or by something, yeah, I'll switch. Okay. But I went through Phoenix 2 or 3 times last spring because we had events there, and I was trying to make up some miles. So I was going to Phoenix, and I went through this construction area in downtown Phoenix, and it was miles. It was probably 3 miles. And I thought, oh boy, but it worked out really well. Because I got the mountain bike, it doesn't matter. I was going up and over curbs, down through ditches, and there were no cars because they didn't go in there. So actually, it was really good. I just was in the construction areas,
Nice. So let me ask you, what have you learned from doing this?
Well, that's a pretty big question.
I know. Take it however you want.
There's so many aspects you can think of. I learned a lot about myself in a sense, like, why am I doing this kind of thing? It was pretty bizarre. One thing I didn't really mention, but my wife and I have been married for 48 years, like I said, and yes. Our first son at 15 months died on life support.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, and thank you. But at the time, we didn't think of it in the hospital. We were in Denver actually at the time. And we never thought of it. The hospital didn't mention it at the time. And my wife especially, but both of us had always talked for years, like, it's too bad we didn't think about seeing if Jason's organs could be donated to another baby, And so that was always in the back of my mind, always. I mean, you never think of it. Those kind of things, as people say, and I think it's true, you don't get over it, and you just learn how to deal with it. So, I mean, it's something in our life. We don't dwell on it, but I think it was there in the back of my mind.
Can I ask you a quick question? So the hospital didn't ask you if you wanted to donate his organs. Is that standard practice now or not? They tried
to make it standard practice.
Okay. But at the time, that wasn't even a question asked to you?
Not that we can remember. I'm sure if we would have been
that was 48 years ago or however long ago. Yeah.
And we've done some research. We've done a lot of reading on organ transplantation nowadays. And back in 1954 was the first successful kidney transplant. And they did a lot of, as you can imagine, wasn't very successful. I mean, as anything that starts like that.
Yeah, experimental.
Ups and downs. And best that we can tell, in the mid to late 70s, it was kind of a low time.
Okay.
They're trying to expand the programs and public awareness and public, feedback. Sometimes they laid low, as best I can explain it. And so maybe this was and every hospital is different, and each situation like that is totally different too. It's a decision that's made in a matter of sometimes a few minutes, a few hours. Who's on staff? What's going on at the time? What's the frame of mind of everybody? And so it just didn't happen. But it is, I think they try to make it standard practice today to have somebody, you can imagine it takes a special person to come in and talk to a family and say, hey, by the way.
You're grieving, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's a tough situation. But the fact that it was there, and as soon as Hugh said he needed a kidney, it wasn't a conscious decision. I cannot say it was conscious, but I knew it was there. It was like, oh, this one's not going to slip away from me.
It was like a full circle moment for you. It helped you connect some dots.
It did, but it took a while for that to all filter through my head and make sense of it consciously, like I'm telling you. It was just something there it was there. What else have I learned? Well, we've just learned that there's so many good people. I mean,
we need that in this world for sure.
Yeah, especially nowadays. I mean,
all the negative news and everything.
Oh yeah. I mean, and we did all 3 of my rides in the middle of COVID. So you think about that.
Mm-hmm.
We were staying with a lot of people that didn't know us. The first ride, no. The very first ride in September, or spring of 2020, 21, I mean, it was too dangerous. So we didn't know enough about COVID. So we stayed with our friends in the motorhome or a hotel if we had to. But even like last spring, coming from San Diego, there was a little upswing in California at the time. So some of the hospitals just couldn't meet with me. They're short staffed. They couldn't even have people come out. But they tried their best. They knew that we were doing, So, and what we found out with media, it doesn't matter what's going on at the time. It doesn't matter how big or small the media event is. With the internet, things travel so fast. So we don't look for big events, so to speak. We just, anything that works, we'll get out there. But we found that, another thing I do is, as far as lodging, I reached out to an organization that I belong to. It's through the Catholic Church. It's called Knights of Columbus. And it's just a church group. I mean, it's just, I joined it years and years ago. I'm not active in it, but I'm still a member. But I thought, well, I'll reach out to these guys because they do so much within the church to try to, they're very underground grassroots organization. Hear a lot about them, but they do a lot of good things. So I reached out to different Knights of Columbus chapters, councils, and said, here's what I'm doing. And oh yeah, I think 6 or 7 of them said, yes, you can stay with us. So I was meeting people in the middle of these small towns in New Mexico at their houses and then spending the night with them, on the ride. So that was so much fun. So yeah, to try to answer your question, what did we learn? Well, we learned a lot. I mean, we've learned a lot, but I think the most thing has just been fun. It's just been so much fun. And
what I see too is that you have really focused on the good, what we focus on, that's what grows. And so good has grown out of this. And I think that is just amazing with all of the bad, negative stuff that people are focusing on. We're losing sight of what, one person can do to make a difference.
Yeah. I mean, it builds up. You think it's kind of like eating the elephant. You got to take one bite at a time. I came from a sales background and marketing a little bit, not so much marketing, but just sales. And I had very complex sales, meaning that I sold equipment to paper mills, and some of these sales would take months or years to complete. So putting together a ride like this and planning out a year in advance and all the little details, although it's not the same as I did for my regular job, it's very similar to what I used to do, create a database, get people, find out people who's going to be involved and what their roles are going to be and keep track of all that. So it was pretty natural for me in that respect. And the fact that I can combine it with biking was just unbelievable because, again, I wasn't looking for this. It just kind of happened that, hey, I'm going to turn this ride into an awareness ride and bike. Well, for me, that was just natural. I mean, it's not like, oh, I'm going to bike it and this is going to be tough. Oh no, this is like, as a matter of fact, a lot of my friends have ridden with me for days. And we're kind of like giggling, like, hey, don't tell anybody. This is really fun. We're supposed to be, like, well, this is tough. No, this is what we want to do.
Yes. And I think that's, you're really spotlighting that you're a living donor. People think about, yeah, I'll donate when I die. It's on my driver's license, or you'll have those tough conversations with the doctor, but we really need to spotlight the living donors, or people that are alive that have a kidney that they could donate. And, that's what's so unique compared to the other organs. We don't have two hearts, but we do have two kidneys. And I think that you really are shining a spotlight on the living donors. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I mean, there's very, very few reasons where people shouldn't be signed up to be a deceased donor on their driver's license. I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, most of us have done that since we've been 16 years old. I mean, it's just something that's there. Living donation, of course, it's a lot bigger commitment. Mm-hmm. But again, like I said earlier, not everybody can donate.
Right.
I still think that there are literally millions of people that could donate. Mm-hmm. And looking for approximately, if we could fill one sports stadium every year, think of all the times we fill sports stadiums in college football, college basketball, pros, soccer. If we could fill one time here, more than people that are donating today, mm-hmm. we wouldn't have a wait list. Nobody would be dying from kidney failure.
Amazing. I think, we really need to have like something where it's a normalized conversation that families are having, from the get-go, just as it's no big deal to donate blood or donate plasma. Too many people are dying with healthy kidneys and not even aware or know that they can make and save a life.
Yeah, and that was part of my decision with Hugh. After a few days, when I started to think about what did I just do? I just told this guy to give him a kidney. And I had no idea what that meant, to be honest with you. Maybe I knew my sister-in-law donated, but beyond that, I had really no idea. And I thought to myself, well, what if I can't ride my bike like I have been? What if I can't cross-country ski like I have been, or canoe or kayak, or all the things I do? And I thought to myself, well, 64 years old at the time, it's like, well, even if I can't, if I can help Hugh live a normal life. He's on dialysis 10 hours every night. He has no life, basically. And he was still working. Mm-hmm. It was rather an anomaly in the fact that he was able to work. He wasn't getting quite as sick as most people do that are on dialysis. People that are on dialysis, their life quality is, it's basically a slow death. And that's, to be honest, the dialysis cannot do what kidneys do, even in our day and age today. So everybody on dialysis that they're slowly going downhill every day. And the sad fact is that they'll get to a point where they can't physically have surgery anymore. They can't live through even getting the kidney because their body has deteriorated at that point. So there's, I just read a stat this morning. I'm not good at remembering things, but so there's 95,000 people waiting for a kidney right now, and there's triple or quadruple that on dialysis. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we need to normalize it. Although the hospital, part of the evaluation process, they really get into the psychological aspect of it. Why are you doing this? It's obvious for a family member why you're doing it, but for people like me, in the sense that, well, I did know Hugh, but I knew him for like an hour or two.
Right. They thought you were maybe like not mentally well to make that decision. They have to double check. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Altruistic donors, and there's a lot of them, and there's getting to be a lot of young people. It's so encouraging. Yeah. People just, I want to do this. And some of them don't want to know who gets their kidney.
And why is that?
They just don't want to. They just feel they want to do something good for somebody. Okay. And it's like the old Bible saying, if you
Not looking for recognition or anything like that. It's more pure at heart.
Yeah. And so the hospital's well, I can't speak for all of them because I've only been to one, but talking with other people and the way the programs are, all across the country, they have a psychological evaluation about why are what's your motivation for this? Is somebody trying to coerce you into doing it? Are you?
Oh yeah. We've all heard the horror stories of China harvesting organs and from prisoners and all that type of stuff. Like, yeah, I can see why they want to double check none of that's going on.
Well, and I've had people call me to ask questions about donation, and I get that a lot. And one guy wanted to donate for his uncle because the rest of the family thought he should, and he didn't. He was confused about all of it. Am I a bad person because I'm questioning it? No, of course not. Maybe this is your help, So yeah, it's not for everybody, but I think there's enough people out there that we could wipe that wait list out if we wanted to.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know any research or information about like artificial kidneys on the horizon where people aren't even going to need dialysis in the future. Is that something that you're familiar with?
Well, the closest thing was just happened a few months ago with a pig kidney, and maybe you'd heard about it, maybe you didn't, but they have to do something with the pigs genetically to grow this kidney. And when they do, they put it in I think they put it in a cadaver, and they just wanted to see if the kidney would function, and it did. So that was very encouraging. That was just a few months ago, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, so people in the kidney community like us,
was that in the United States or was that in a different country?
That was in the United States. Yeah.
That was in the United States. Okay.
Yeah. So to answer your question, we think so. We think eventually this, gonna have to worry about people like myself donating kidney or doing these kind of things. But like I tell people, there's always something we can find to do something good for somebody else. Doesn't matter. There's always going to be something out there for the kidney, but it's not there now.
Exactly. So we're getting here toward the end. Do you have any like final thoughts that you would like to share with the audience with regards to the organ trail?
Well, I just always encourage people, if this sounds interesting at all, a little curious, I just ask people to do, basically one thing or two things. One is to maybe learn something about the voucher program, learn something about some aspect of the whole thing. And that way, if you're ever in a conversation with somebody, you can maybe give some good information. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And you go to the Oregon Trail, and just some old guy riding a bike. Just learn more about the Oregon Trail and say, hey, maybe somebody's thinking about donating, they're not sure. Say, hey, this guy is this. Talk to this guy here, or read about this guy here. So just if you want to do something that'll help, just get a little curiosity and learn, and just learn some more, and be willing to share it. And I think people will do ultimately what they want to do, and people will gravitate toward that end.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mark. I sure do appreciate you coming on my channel today and sharing your story and sharing us your journey with continuing raising awareness around kidney donors.
Thanks, Lisa. And one last thing is National Kidney Registry, nkr.org, is where I got all of my information. And NKDO is a National Kidney Donation Organization. It's a long term, but that's what I'm part of, and that's what helped me through my donation. It's an organization of people that have all donated kidney, and we mentor people through it. It's all volunteers, basically, and then so we help people go through the process. So,
awesome.
Yeah, nkr.org or nkdo.org.
Are you also a kidney donor athlete? Are you with that organization or group?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. I've had a few of them on my channel as well.
You have?
Good stuff. Yes. I've had Tracy. I've had a couple others too that have done some great things. So,
well, it's funny with Tracy, if you got another minute. When I first started to think, well, am I going to be able to do this? Tracy's from Wisconsin. She grew up in Madison.
And she's the founder, actually, of Kidney Donor Athletes.
Yep. when I first found out about the voucher program, Ned Brooks, who I talked to, who contacted me. So what happened when I wanted to put this ride together, I reached out to NKR and said, hey, I want to donate a kidney. I have no idea how to do that. And I want to ride my bike to create awareness. They connected me with Ned Brooks from NKDO, and Ned called me up and he told me about the voucher program. I had no idea that existed. I remember thinking, so I'm going to drive from central Wisconsin right through Madison down to Louisiana to donate a kidney. And Madison is and I learned Madison was one of the top rated kidney transplant hospitals in the United States. Mm. And I remember thinking, why am I doing that? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why do I have to do this day and age? And that was in my head. And
at age 64.
Yeah. And so I think, well, that's the way it is, just got to do it this way. Well, then Ned calls me up a few weeks later and says, oh no, you don't have to do that. You can have it you can do everything in Madison because of the voucher. So I can't say much enough about the voucher program. We're trying to take down barriers to donors that want to donate. And this is one major way. So,
yes.
Yeah. Oh, but Ned told me about Tracy.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked up Tracy. Tracy's the one who really put me over the top, like, oh yeah, you can do whatever you want to do afterwards.
Yes. So you guys are living examples that you can do vigorous, sustainable, continuous activity and lead a healthy lifestyle with one kidney. So thank you for being that shining example.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yes. And if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be alerted to when the next video drops. Thanks for watching.